This is lesson 2, Science Tools and Safety. So let's open up this lesson slides and take a look at them together. So today we're going to start out with a do now. I would like you to print out safety rules and hole punch the page and place it in your binder as the first page in front of the lab notebook that we created in the last lesson. Okay. So this is what the lab safety page looks like, and I'm going to put it up on the board so we can look at the different chemistry lab rules. The first one up here is goggles. Always wear goggles in the lab in case something spills or there's a splash. Your eyes would be protected. Same thing with gloves. Wearing gloves protects your hands. And wearing shoes that are not open-toed like flip-flops protects your feet. There's no food or drink in the lab because we do use different types of chemicals. And if anything breaks, such as glass, there are bins where you can dispose of that, but you would always want to ask a teacher for help. And if something does get in your eye, there is a eye wash station to rinse out your eyes. So these are some of the important lab safety rules that scientists use when working in a laboratory in a chemistry lab. Okay, so let's take a look at the first lab tool, which here is a hand lens. A hand lens is similar to a magnifying glass. It makes objects look bigger. So if you're examining something and you want to study it in greater detail, you would use a hand lens. And you would want to be careful not to drop or scratch the lens. Forceps, these are tools used to pick up and hold on to small objects or objects that may break easily. And forceps may be sharp and should be cleaned after being used. The next lab tool is a plastic pipette, which is a narrow tube used to measure and transfer small amounts of liquid from one cup to another. And the way that you use it is you squeeze the top, place the tip of the pipette in a cup of water, and then release the top, and slowly watch the liquid fill up the pipette. Okay. And we will be talking about how to use these pipettes later on as well, a little more. Okay, the next tool is a measuring cup, and I'm sure a lot of you have used it in cooking or baking. It's used to measure liquids or loose solids like powders. Do not drop the measuring cup and ask your teacher for help with any spills. A spring scale is a lab tool used to measure an object's weight, and only use this tool when a teacher is around to help. A thermometer is a tool that measures temperature. It tells how cold or hot something is. You can also use it to measure the air temperature. If a thermometer breaks, do not touch it. Ask your teacher for help. A ruler is used to measure length, width, height, and depth of an object. Do not use with hot objects. You could hurt or damage the ruler, or also your hands. You want to be careful. Measuring tape is like a ruler, but it can measure curved objects. So if you want to measure a jar, for example, all around, you would use the measuring tape. And do not use plastic measuring tape to measure hot objects. Okay, our next lab tool is measuring spoons, and also something that you may have encountered when baking. These spoons are used to measure ingredients in tiny amounts, very small, and should not be used to measure hot liquids. Okay, the next tool is the graduated cylinder, and it's used to measure liquids. You want to handle glass graduated cylinders carefully so they do not break. There's also plastic ones that we will be using. A pan balance is used to measure mass of the or the amount of matter in an object. Only use this tool when a teacher is around to help you. Okay, and our last tool in this lesson is a microscope, and it's used to make very small objects, like cells, look larger. Always use 2 hands when you carry a microscope, and do not touch the lens with your fingers. So science rules are very important. You must follow all directions and instructions during a science experiment. You must be careful with all science tools and experiment objects. And you must also remember to have fun in science. Okay, so this is the end of lesson 2. As the assignment, I would like you to do print out 2 worksheets. So worksheet 1 is lab tools, and you will find and circle as many of the lab tools that we talked about in today's lesson in this picture. And then I would like you to print out worksheet 2, which is a word search, and find the lab tools in the word search. Okay, and you can save your work in your binder. There's also a short quiz at the end of this lesson. So this is the end of lesson 2.